So, one of the things that we did during the reading salon this year was talk about a really interesting article that came out in August. And it seemed like it was going to highlight, this conflict between June Jordan, Audre Lorde, and one other kind of well-known name, if you will, white feminists, specifically like during their time, a conflict around Palestine. And I wouldn't say that this article, really highlighted that. I think that it talked a little bit about, um, Audre Lorde and her having a different political orientation, at a point in time. And this kind of parallel to June Jordan and her message and her political orientation and how different those were. I think this article also for me highlighted, you know, that even though Audre Lorde and other Black feminists, Black queer feminists were in these marginalized places, that Audre Lorde had more of a mainstream voice, you know, at that point in time. Um, and June Jordan was known for sure. And we know now that much of her work was kind of pushed to the sidelines because of her political orientation and being, you know, um, just outspoken about that and the difference of that. So I want to make sure that before the year wraps up, that not only I highlight like some of the important kind of themes, or highlight some of the important themes that came up like um during the reading salon for this year. But just also, this was interesting to me. It piqued my interest because I was like, oh, this is an article highlighting a conflict. And in Black feminist kind of spaces, it's very interesting to me, that I haven't read much about interpersonal conflicts between Black feminists, and how they've navigated friendships. And, like this article kind of highlighted differences in politics, and how they work through those differences in politics. And so this article piqued my interest around that specifically. It didn't give any answers to those questions about how they navigated this conflict outside of what the article mentions related to June Jordan, and her kind of not having, and y'all can't see me, but I'm using like air quotes, her kind of moving away from the friendship. I am just going to give an overview about the article, and I have two more that I want to just highlight, again. So if you find these intersections kind of interesting, there'll be some additional kind of readings that I recommend. So this article came out in August and definitely, caused a little bit of the stir in the Black feminist, Black queer feminist kind of spaces. Again, like I mentioned, there was this centering of having a difference around political orientation related to Palestine. It talks about how, June Jordan and Audre Lorde, they there was a clear conflict between them. There was a letter that was found in Audre Lorde's archive, if I remember how this goes correctly, about this situation. and that there didn't seem to be any resolve, between the two of them. And again, that piqued my interest. Again, there is this piece. Oh, jeez, sorry, y'all. I don't know how to. Oh my God, go away. I hate when I don't even know how to like scroll. They say you can't. They said you can't read this any longer. Um so yeah, there was a centering around Palestine, and Barbara Smith um comes into this conversation because of an open letter that kind of came out related to, again, this time around, um, talking up about anti-Zionism, Palestine, right? Like, we know that there are cycles. And so, yeah, like, this isn't the first time that Black feminists have gotten together to write, have discourse, advocate, organize around Palestine. And so this talks about that time. Barbara Smith was also included in this conversation. And it's really interesting because Black Women Radicals did an interview with Barbara Smith, and I'll show y'all that article in a minute. And I found that even though Barbara Smith's interview, it was really short, I feel like there could have been some additional kind of questions that were asked about some of the things that she was saying. But one of the things that I found interesting, and I'll just go to that article now so that you can have, let's see, that reference as well. So this is on the Black Women Radicals webpage, on their website, and the interview is called "On the Record: Barbara Smith on Palestine, June Jordan, Audre Lorde, and Adrienne Rich." And you can find the article as well as the interview and the transcript of that here on the website. And yeah, like I said, I feel like, the interview was okay. I feel like there were some interesting, like I was saying, just some interesting pathways that could have been explored a little bit more. One of the things that I took away from Barbara Smith's interview was it gave a better understanding about the interpersonal relationships of many of our kind of cornerstone Black feminists during that time. So it became apparent during Barbara Smith's interview that she was really describing women, relationships with other Black women, Black feminist spaces, as these were folks that were getting together, writing with each other. They weren't necessarily friends. They didn't necessarily move in the same circles, organize together, and clearly they didn't have the same political orientation. They were writing, they were in academic spaces, and so they wrote together. And so that cast a really interesting light for me on not only that time, but as I mentioned, like Black feminist relationships and like conflict, and how how are we as Black feminists thinking about conflict within our own spaces? Like, what are the lessons that Barbara Smith, June Jordan, Audre Lorde, like these folks, what have they passed on to us about how to be in community with each other when there is conflict? And, a bunch of question marks pop up in my mind around this. I will definitely continue to center and talk about this article. One of the main reasons is because, again, I think that there's something there about community and conflict. And that was, the kind of centering for our conversations in September and then also in October around these particular articles. Here I mentioned, like I said at the top of coming on the live stream today, that when that article dropped in August, it definitely caused a little bit of a stir in the Black feminist community. And so here I talk about Alexis Pauline Gumbs and an offering that she did around August, and also a reflection on this article and her knowledge, or thoughts about, again, what was mentioned about the conflict during that time between June Jordan and Audre Lorde. We in the Salon, we connected it to some previous themes that we had talked about further towards the top of 2024. So around like disposability, cancel culture in Black feminist spaces. So yeah, I am making these connections between like that article, the commentary that has come out from then, and then as we move into 2025, especially after the election and the current like political climate and what we've seen related to conflict in other Black feminist spaces, just even around like the election and organizing and so on and so forth. Yeah, I want to continue centering this as an example, or yeah, as the place to keep talking through like conflict, relationships, but then also like what are the lessons that we can learn from Black feminist ancestors around being in community with each other and relationships and forgiveness and what resolution looks like or not, and things like that. And permission, right? Permission to walk away from things and let go. So this is kind of, I guess it's like a series that I'm doing at this point. I did a video around a conflict that kind of played out on Instagram between Black feminist futures. I'll link that video in the comment section, and this absolutely connects to this topic, these articles and these commentaries around this conflict between June Jordan and Audre Lorde, and having different political orientations, and what does it mean to be a Black feminist, right? In the expressions of Black feminism or Black queer feminism. And so that's the series. The title of this video is like a conflict that time travels, and that is kind of a connection to, again, like conflict, but then also these like Afrofuturist themes about time travel, about letting go, about how we resolve things, but then also, what does this kind of gap in our understanding about this particular conflict, these relationships, what's the lessons that we can learn about that for the next generation, for those that are even in community with us, about what lessons we pass along and how we can pass them along. So anyway, that's the end of my rambling on that. I hope that this was interesting. I'm going to do there'll be another video coming up soon related to Black feminist stuff. I'm starting a series where I talk about some of the things that I like research and just keep an eye on if I see an article come out about it, and one of these kind of Black feminism rabbit holes is what's happened in Florida at New College and the defunding of a gender and women's studies program, um, and the arguments around DEI and how right wing conservatives were able to do that, and what the chatter has been or not. Um, Again, in Black feminist kind of spaces related to the academy, to academia, um, because this is like one of the places, this is one of the largest spaces, if you will, the largest organized spaces, if you will, and I have air quotes when I say that, where Black feminism has a life. And so if we see that this is happening in Florida and it's gone pretty quiet, um, it's been pretty quiet since then related to mainstream media coverage around it. But I'm on a list serve that shares about women's studies, gender and women's studies list serve, and I saw some articles come through, some recent articles come through on it. So we're going to look at those together. So you can check that out as well. All right, that's enough of my rambling on that. Thank you.